I've been reading about my country's history and I found something very interesting, which shows that the communists were behaving the exact same way like Disney is behaving. And I'll explain what I mean by this. The people who were being suppressed under communism, like the ones that the secret police cracked down the hardest, were liberals, like people who had just milquetoast ideas, like you would consider them to be centrists, but they were speaking common sense. They were advocating for freedom, for liberty, for free market, and these were the people that were made to disappear right away. Even if they were left leaning, especially like hippies that were asking for peace, yeah, they existed under the Iron Curtain, but it's difficult to say how many of them were they, because like the moment they popped up, they would be arrested. The people, however, that didn't get any sort of persecution were the far right extremists, like either the Nazis likes or people that were incredibly religious. And I was thinking, like, why was it? But I guess it kind of makes sense because what the communists were basically saying by amplifying their voices and by making the crazies the loudest while suppressing the common sense people was that they were implying, like, if you think we're bad, imagine if these people get into power. Like, we're managing to suppress these people. And it's very interesting. You know, like some people call them controlled opposition. I don't think that's the case. I think like crazies exist in the nature. They exist in the wild. You don't need to create them. But the reason I'm saying this is that if you think about how Disney did its marketing with a couple of its movies, like for example, the Star Wars, or other companies like Hollywood, how it marketed female Ghostbusters, Battlefield 5 suffered the same fate. The way they would market them, like you would look at the forum, and you notice that there were also misogynistic, sexist, and vile comments there, attacking the actors, attacking the director, but there were a lot more of legitimate comments. Like, for example, with the female Ghostbusters, you would have people that were saying, I don't like the trailer, I don't like the special effects, I don't think that the jokes landed. I mean, genuine criticism. And what the companies did is that they would remove the genuine criticism, but allow the misogynistic comments to remain. So if you had like 1,000 comments and 100 of them were misogynistic, by removing just 900 of the common sense comments, you'd only get like misogynistic comments, in order to create the impression that only misogynists do not want to pay their hard-earned money in order to go see the art piece, which is female Ghostbusters. Now, the movie was objectively bad because if, let's say, all right-wingers would refuse to go watch it, like they would boycott it, you would still have like left-wing people that would go see it, and then you'd have like other countries that don't even have like this political dichotomy just making money there. But that didn't happen. Right? But it brings the question, and there's two questions that need to be brought. Okay, like number one, why do companies insist with the wokeness? And number two, which is also an interesting question, like why is it that some movies do wokeness right? Like for example, Black Panther. I mean that's a successful movie, and others do wokeness wrong. So what is like too much wokeness? What is super wokeness? And I thought about it, and I think I came up with an answer. So why do companies get woke? And the reason is that wokeness is the language of corporations. They speak the speech pretty much. It's not the language of the peasantry. So what I mean by this is like if a company goes woke, studies show that it's beneficial for that company. If a company is neutral, nothing happens, okay? And I'm talking about politics. Like, it doesn't talk about politics at all. It just wants to sell you candy. Nothing happens. If a company is conservative, it gets boycotted and it gets negative press. Think about Chick-fil-A, think about My Pillow Guy, right? Companies that are conservatives, they get negative press or get boycotted. Companies that are progressive, like a movie that says we're going to have the first female transgender is starring in a all-new action movie with superheroes breaking the glass ceiling, that is going to get coverage from the New York Times, is going to get coverage from the Guardian. So that's why they're trying to be woke, because it signals to other companies. The problem is that the peasantry, the people actually consuming the product, they don't like wokeness. That's why it's get woke, go broke. They don't want it. And the problem is that the company that wants to sell the movie and at the same time wants you to go buy the toys, because it's not enough to put the butts in seats. It also requires you to go out and purchase merchandise to basically give them money and found the IP. So they need to balance the level of wokeness. And what does that mean exactly? Well, recently there have been a lot of PR campaigns and marketing campaigns, intellectuals that finished marketing school. And their logic is like this. If we create a movie that's mediocre, but we sell that every single criticism about the movie is because people are unwoke, like people are either racist, bigots, or sexist, or whatever, then we're going to appeal to the liberal audience and tell them, hey, even if you don't like this movie, if you go watch it, you're going to piss off the anti-woke. The problem with this logic is that there is more money to be had by pissing off the social justice activists than it is by pissing off the anti-woke. Like, I have seen this time and time again, whenever like an independent comic book becomes anti-woke and it gets like a lot of funding. Ethan Van Sciver's comic, for example, made $1 million with one issue. You had like the balloon, that ridiculous balloon in London with Sadiq Khan. Like, people donated so much money for it. I think it had like 40,000 pounds in donations, because people don't like social justice activists. And it's not necessarily because of their ideology, it's how they behave. People do not appreciate this moralizing, moral busybody, evangelical-like, Puritan in their behavior, where everyone needs to fit in a box, otherwise they will try to get them fired. So people dislike these individuals. And if you're pandering to them way too much, then it's not just the right-wingers that you're alienating. You're alienating people in the center, and you're alienating people on the left as well. These people represent only the fringe far left. So they're not high in number. Even if all of them would go watch your movie, it's not going to create a strong enough consumer base in order to justify your IP being profitable. So to summarize, what is a bad woke product? A bad woke product is usually a product that's not original, so they're using an old IP. Whether it is a sequel or a reboot, they take something that was classical and was famous, and they reboot it. And they do a gender or a race swap that's just blatant, like what they did with female Ghostbusters. And at this point, you just have like a woke movie. You don't have a super woke movie. No, the super woke movie is when some people complain on the internet, and they don't have to even be a lot. Then the developer, the director, or maybe some actor, or even like journalists that are renowned shills, are going to assault the fans and call the fans toxic for not agreeing with the decision. Basically like insulting the fans. And I don't understand like why they think this is a good business proposition, but like if you're going to insult your customer, why do you expect the customer to give you money, right? So this is what a super woke thing is. Now the question is like, how do you do woke properly? Because there are actually good woke movies. As I mentioned, Black Panther, right? Why is Black Panther good? It's because it doesn't race swap anything. It doesn't gender swap anything. It is literally true to the IP, to the intellectual property, which is the comic book. It's a new and original superhero, and it does appeal to the targeted demographic. So that's why Black Panther is doing well, in my opinion. That's why it's a good woke product. I mean, it is woke, right? But it's not insulting the fans. It's not being spirited. And it's appealing, right? Steven Universe, another example. It's a new product. It's a new IP, which wasn't mean-spirited for the children that were watching it. It was something that people liked. But on the opposite end of the scale, you have Thundercats Go, which is a reimagining of the previous Thundercats, completely dismisses what the previous IP was about, and is actually mean-spirited towards boys. I mean, if you watch the first episode, you'll see that Lion-O just wants to go adventuring, and he is treated like the butt end of the joke. He's chastised for just wanting to go adventuring. it's basically implied that he should always seek the consensus of the group, never act as an individual, and this is a show which is targeting to boys, and most boys do want to go on adventuring, and it basically implies that it's something wrong with you if you want to do that. Like it's against the nature of what a boy does, and you get the vibe throughout the entire episode that it's very mean-spirited towards the audience that's supposed to target. On the opposite end of the scale, Princess Shira is not like that. And that's why it got more seasons, and that's why it rose in popularity. So, I understand why most companies and products want to be woke. And I also understand, the difference between being super woke. Like something that is so over the top that you're alienating everyone and you're not going to make a profit. So to recap, it's, first of all, reimaginings, reboots, things that are not original, but at the same time, they do not maintain the same vibe that the original IP had. So think about Star Trek. What was Star Trek? Star Trek, the way I would describe it was water cooling conversations within Enterprise. Most of Star Trek, the part that's good, The Next Generation, is about talking. It's just people flapping their gums. That's it. Sure, you get a couple of action scenes here and there, but it's mostly just talking. Just people blah, 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 blah. What is about the new Star Trek? Oh, it's special effects, and it's the lasers, and pew, 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 and it's Michael Burnham, and she's a woman, but did you notice that she's got a male name, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're just taking away what the IP used to be, the utopia of mankind, the greatest accomplishments of mankind, and now you're making it, it's actually a dark universe, because you see, the Federation is actually under the control of evil people, and the Federation is now evil, and Picard doesn't understand it anymore, and it's come on. Why you do this? The Orville is more Star Trek than Star Trek at this point. So that's the main issue, taking away the soul of the IP, what is actually important. Why would you make a sequel or a reboot if you're just going to do something else, do something new? On the other opposite end, Cobra Kai is a perfect example of how you should make a reboot. Cobra Kai is not woke, okay? But Cobra Kai is literally the spirit of Karate Kid. There is no way you can watch Karate Kid and then watch Cobra Kai and not to notice the connection. It's it's almost like it's made by the same person. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. It's one of the best shows that I have ever seen. At least in recent time. And by the way, Karate Kid wasn't even that mind-blowing if you think about it. It's okay, a kid that does karate and he's also an asshole. But watching the new TV show, it's so awesome about the story and how they're continuing that legacy. If every show was like that, then I would love reboots and sequels and reimaginings. But they kind of don't. Hey, you know what? Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. Take care.